So are you guys all in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody's
Las
there.
Vegas, Henderson.
Okay, so that's where I grew up too, and that's where I went to school as well. And I started snowboarding when I lived in Las Vegas. A lot of people don't think that professional skiers or snowboarders come from Vegas, but we have that ski resort just outside of Vegas, and that's where I grew up skiing and snowboarding. And I loved it so much. I knew that I would do it for the rest of my life. And then when I was 19, I ended up getting really sick of something called meningitis, which I almost died. And in order to save my life, my body, actually, it's pretty amazing what your body can do. So my body pulled blood from my legs and from my hands, basically from my extremities, to save my organs, because your body can survive without your arms and your legs, but you can't survive without your organs. So all the blood went to my organs. And so I ended up losing circulation, losing the blood flow to my lower legs. And that's why they had to amputate my feet. And so I just went on a mission to try to do the things that I love to do again. And so I actually made my own snowboard feet, because at the time there weren't any snowboarding feet. And I went snowboarding for the first time and realized that my ankles didn't move the way I wanted them to. And so I sat back and I thought, well, probably what you guys are thinking, I kind of problem solved. I sat back and thought, okay, at first I thought, well, this is impossible. And I felt really discouraged. And I thought, it's clearly impossible to snowboard on two prosthetic legs. But then I thought, well, if I can figure out a way to get my ankles to move in the way I need them to, if I could figure out a way to keep these detachable body parts attached to my body, then I actually would be able to snowboard again. And so that really forced me to get creative and to find a way to make it happen. And so I started doing a bunch of research and ordered a bunch of different parts and pieces for feet, because feet, like prosthetic feet, let me see if I can. I was going to bring a leg. I have a couple feet that I'll show you. I don't have my snowboard feet. The feet that I'm talking about are actually in a museum in the Smithsonian right now in Washington, D.C. But I basically made these feet. Right here, I'll show you one pair of feet. This isn't the ones I snowboarded in, but so the outside look like this because it has to fit in a shoe. So it kind of looks like a foot, but the real cool part is on the inside. And unfortunately, I don't think I have any feet that I can show you on the inside, but it's basically, they're all different, but there's just metal pieces on the inside that move in different ways. And I control it. So they're not robotic in the way that they move on their own. I control the feet myself. And so when I walk, the feet the movement is propelled by me pushing off the feet, and then it pushes off the carbon fiber inside the foot and it moves. And so I started basically putting together like here's kind of an ankle piece. So I ordered an ankle piece that moved a certain way, and then I ordered a foot that moved a certain way. I actually turned the ankle backwards. I put a bunch of wood at the bottom and duct taped it to the foot. And I basically got a foot that could snowboard or that can move in the way that I need it to for snowboarding. So I'm kind of a little bit of an inventor myself, kind of inventing these feet so I could snowboard again. But then as I started to get better, there's more prosthetics out there for snowboarding. But then when I decided to do the TV show Dancing with the Stars, I was kind of back at the same spot of trying to figure out how to do it when there weren't any dancing feet that you could just buy. And so there's no dancing feet out there. And I can dance a little bit on my walking legs, but when it came to Dancing with the Stars, you need to really be able to move your ankles in really dynamic directions. And there's no feet that really worked that way. And so I ended up just getting creative and dancing in different feet. Like the ones I just showed you are actually swimming feet. So my real leg attaches, well, I should show you, I should explain this a little bit more, but I'll show you guys well, let me show you so that I can explain it a little bit better. I actually should have brought more feet in here. They're in the other room. So I'm actually taking my leg off to show you guys my prosthetic leg. Let me see here. So, okay. Okay, so here is my prosthetic leg. And this is, just the foot, but it's got all the dynamics inside the foot. And then the ankle really doesn't move. But then this part is called the socket. And what this does is this is where my real leg goes. So this is made of metal too. It doesn't move, but my real leg goes inside of it. So you can see kind of it's hollow. And you see like a little pin down there, a little spot, a little hole. Actually, so my real leg goes inside this leg and it fits perfect. And so that way, when I walk, I basically am just propelling it from my knees and my thighs. And so, so for Dancing with the Stars, this part where my real leg goes into, it connected to the foot. But see how this foot is like this? Well, this foot is like this. So I'm on my tippy toes. So if you can imagine when you swim, you're kind of kicking your foot behind you. This is a swimming foot, but I used it for dancing. And so that's how I had to get creative. Is the reason I used it for dancing is I wanted to be on the very tips of my toes, like a ballerina. So these are like, these are clunky feet to walk in, and these are like my ballerina feet where I'm on the very tips of my toes. And that's what I'm dancing in. And so then, let me see. So then I've got other feet that I danced in. Let me see if I brought it with me. I've got feet everywhere, all over the house. I've got all types of legs and feet. Okay, so this foot is really cool because it doesn't look like a foot at all. It was actually designed after the hind leg of a cheetah. So this is a running blade. And if you can imagine what the hind leg of a cheetah looks like, is, it's kind of like this interesting backwards leg that helps propel a cheetah so they can run fast. That's what this foot is designed after. And so once again, that socket, my real leg, goes right here. And then this is just one big spring. So it basically just it compresses when you run and propels you forward. So I danced in these feet as well. So basically, yeah, I've had to get really, really creative, but I've been able to do everything that I've wanted to do. I've just had to get creative and find a way. And I've had to work hard at it, but it's all been possible, which is really cool. I just have had to do things a little bit differently. Most of my feet are not robotic. In fact, none of my feet are actually robotic. However, what's really cool is I just had a surgery done on my leg, on my real leg, that allows my muscles to move again for the first time since I lost my legs. And what this does is I am working with MIT in Boston, who does all the biomechanics and robotics. And they are going to eventually put these electrodes into my muscles and connect them to prosthetic feet where I can wiggle the toes and move the ankles. So those will actually be robotic. But what's interesting about that is in order to control a robotic foot, you have to have a surgery like I've had where you actually can control your muscles. Because when they do the surgery initially, when I lost my legs initially, I couldn't control the muscles. So that's how it is for most people who lose their legs. So in order to control robotic feet, you have to go through this next surgery to be able to have the electrodes in the muscles and control the feet. But it is really, really cool. Really cool, because in the future, we'll be able to actually have more robotic feet. However, there are a lot of people with prosthetics who are above the knee. So I'm considered below the knee because that's where the surgery was done, was below the knee. But when you're above the knee, people walk around on robotic legs all the time. And also arm amputees who use arm prosthetics, a lot of those are robotic as well. So yeah. So anyways, I'm kind of in the robotic space a little bit, but I'll be a patient. I'll be like a guinea pig for robotics moving forward.
Oh, that is so exciting and interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So it's really, but it's really cool to see, first of all, what all of you guys are working on. It's so cool. And just to keep people in mind because I will tell you, the most important thing we can have in our lives is the ability to move. And so even if you are in a wheelchair or paralyzed, to have different solutions so that you can move and you can work and you can work out and you can travel and you can be independent and take care of yourself. That's really, really important. And so I love what you guys are doing with coming up with different solutions.
Is there any piece of equipment that you use to stay active that you wish was easier to use, or something that you wish was invented to help you?
I mean, my goodness, it's kind of, I will, okay, so something that is recent that I wish I could figure out is, so right now I have an injury on my left leg where I can't wear my left prosthetic. So I'm only wearing my right prosthetic right now. And I really miss like riding my bike. And I think, gosh, no, you have to have, clearly, you have to have legs and feet to go on the pedals to ride a bike. But what I'm missing is, and this may be a little bit too complicated, but it's like I'm like, but my real legs move in that direction. I'm just missing the resistance. So one thing would be, is it possible to ride a bike in any way? Well, there's hand cycles. There is hand cycles, okay? But I'm wondering if there's ways to use my muscles, my quad muscles, my knees, and it's almost like use my knees to ride a bike. So I'm not, because then I could be like using the muscles like I normally would. So that's one kind of thing that I've been thinking of is that, but that could be a little bit complicated. I'm trying to think what else would be easier that would help me be active. Or I'm not sure. I feel bad. I don't know if I actually have, I've had to just get really kind of creative. I do a lot of workouts without my legs on. If I have surgery and I can't use my legs, I do workouts kind of on the floor. One thing that could help is I've been trying to figure out, I work out with bands, like, those workout bands, those colorful workout bands. So without having a foot, it's hard to keep ankle weights or workout bands on my leg. And yet I can do it in physical therapy because my physical therapist is kind of holding the band behind me. Say I'm doing a leg extension and it's wrapped around my leg and the physical therapist is holding it behind me, then I can do that. But I've been trying to find a way to have bands, like something I can connect bands to so that I can do the workouts I need to do. I don't know if that's something that you guys are thinking about, but
Yeah, I think those are some great ideas.
yeah, and everybody's situation is really different. Like for me right now, I'm not using my left leg, but I'm using my right leg. And then there's people that I know who are in wheelchairs and they need help, sometimes propelling their wheelchair forward or getting in and out of their house. But for me, I would say, trying to get the same, I guess, muscle movement that I would get when I had my feet. Because actually, and I'll be wearing my legs again, but as I'm preparing for that, it's like in order to get strong again, I need to be able to really use my muscles, but it's been really hard without having feet. It's really kind of interesting.
What encouraged you to design new legs and start snowboarding again?
What encouraged me, you know what? It was because I loved it so much. And I'll tell you what kind of also encouraged me is there were a couple people that told me I couldn't do it. And they'd say, we've never seen anybody with two prosthetic legs snowboard before, so it's probably not possible. And I don't know, there's just something about somebody telling you you can't do something that motivates you to figure it out and find a way. And so for me, I got so motivated because first of all, I loved snowboarding. I loved it. All my friends did it. I wanted to continue to snowboard. And the only way I was going to do it is if I figured it out. I couldn't rely on somebody else to figure it out for me. because nobody was, had prosthetics, was really as passionate as I was about it. So I really had to create them myself. But I'm so grateful that I did, because now, actually going back to my organization, we've been able to help a lot of athletes with disabilities, not just snowboard, but go on and do the Olympic Games. In fact, my husband, I think a group of athletes, we might have a few athletes come in here in a minute, but my husband today trained 13 athletes with prosthetic legs, not just how to snowboard, but how to compete at a very high level of snowboarding. So basically, by me figuring out many, many years ago how to create something that created a solution for me so that I could snowboard again, we were able to create solutions for a lot of other people. That's why it's really cool. I want to mention, that's why challenges can be really, really frustrating, right? Like when something seems impossible or something doesn't exist. But then if you can get creative and find a way, you can go on to help a lot of people.
Okay, so after getting your prosthetic legs, did you have to train to get better at snowboarding after getting the new legs? Or
Yes.
did it just come back?
No, I had to do everything differently. Well, so I knew what it felt like to snowboard. I knew what it was supposed to feel like. So I knew what my ankles and my legs were supposed to do. So that helped me, because then that's when I went on a mission to try to create the legs that would move the way I need them to. But then I also had to adapt. I had to do things totally different. I mean, even, like some people, for example, when you snowboard. So who out there snowboards? Have you guys tried snowboarding before? Well, when you snowboard and you get on the chairlift, the snowboard hangs from one leg. And so also when you're pushing, oh, sorry, my dog, it's going to get a little loud here. Hold on really fast. Hi, it's okay. Okay. So even getting on the chairlift, your foot is faced one direction sideways, but you're actually walking forward to get onto a chairlift. So we had to create kind of the swivel with the binding. So it would allow the foot to move so that you could push yourself a little bit better to get on the chairlift. And then once you're on the chairlift, having the snowboard hang from one foot, that's normally okay if you have a real leg. But for me, I have a detachable body part that the snowboard's hanging from. So there's a strap that somebody created that connects to the binding of the snowboard and then kind of can wrap around your knee, so that the board's hanging, but it's not hanging just from your foot. It's actually strapped to your knee and kind of hanging. So there's all these different kind of solutions that we've had to come up with. But then also just trying to snowboard again. Yes, I spent many, many years in order to make it to the Paralympics. I spent many, many years training and reconditioning, like retraining my brain and my body how to move the best way possible, even though it had to do it differently than before. But have you guys ever seen an Olympic medal before?
I am.
No? So here, I'll show you. So I've won 3 Olympic medals. And so let me show you this one. This one I think is the prettiest. They're very heavy. They weigh so much. So here's one. This one is from Russia, and it actually has meteorite from space in the glass. And so that one's from Russia. And then these are 2 that I won at the last games, which was in Korea. So this one's a silver medal. And what's cool, it actually has Braille. So for people who are blind, you can kind of rub your fingers along here and read some of the wording that it has along here in Braille. And then this one is a bronze medal, and that was also from Korea. So yeah, so in order to win these medals, I have worked very, 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 very hard. I've had to adjust my feet. I haven't had anybody else who can really help me. I've had to really do it myself when it comes to adjusting my feet and adjusting my ankles. I would spend, for many years, I would spend 4 hours a day, 5 days a week snowboarding and just making little adjustments on my ankles every day, because every little adjustment I would make would move my leg in a different direction. And so I had to get it just right for the type of sport that we're doing. And then I had to train really hard and basically kind of reteach myself how to snowboard in a different way.
So now that you have been through that, how do you help others in a similar situation?
So, well, I definitely do it through our organization. That's something that's really important to my husband and I. So we started it so that we could basically just help athletes or people who want to be athletes, people who have different disabilities, who want to snowboard. We wanted to give them the opportunity to do that and all the resources that we have to be able to do that. So we run our organization, Adaptive Action Sports, every day. My husband trains athletes every day. We have people who have lost their arms. We have people who have lost their legs below the knee, like me, or above the knee. And we have people who even have had levels of paralysis, and they wear different kind of braces on their legs to be able to keep their legs really strong when they're snowboarding. And so, yeah, we've basically just been able to share our resources and everything we know. And for me, being a professional athlete and also figuring out how to snowboard with prosthetic legs, and also figuring out how to dance and how to run and do these things with prosthetics, I want to be able to help other people as well, because there's a lot of people who have different disabilities, tons. And I mean, there's something, the other day I read there's over 50 million people in the United States that have disabilities. And so there's always going to be a need for mobility equipment. There's always going to be a need to enhance mobility equipment. And so you guys, it's really cool what you guys are doing, because this is a great place to start. There's never not going to be, a need for this type of these type of projects that you guys are working on.
All right. What was your biggest obstacle physically when learning how to function with your new legs?
Gosh. Okay, so I would say part of it was mental, because you trying to get used to prosthetics, trying to get used to legs that move differently than real legs. Even though we can do really cool things on prosthetic legs, they don't feel like real legs at all. So mentally, it's a little bit, at first, it was a little bit hard to accept or just, adapt to this new life, because all of a sudden I had to, instead of just waking up and, getting out of bed and going to brush my teeth, I had to wake up, put this liner on my leg, click into my prosthetic, put this sleeve over my knee, and then walk. So all these little things that just took a lot longer to do. And then when I would walk, it felt very, very different than before. But I would say what's really cool is that we as humans are made to adapt, and we adapt very, very well. So even though something seems impossible at first, all of a sudden a few months or even a year passes by, which seems like a long time, but it goes by really fast. And all of a sudden you realize you're not even thinking about it anymore. So now, having 2 prosthetic legs, I don't even think about it anymore. It's just a part of it's like, people who have glasses. People who have glasses wake up in the morning and have to put their glasses on in order to see. I wake up and have to put my legs on in order to walk. But it's become very, very normal for me, to where I don't think about it anymore. But it was very challenging at first. And then also, I think physically, it's something that you're always adapting to. One major challenge that people who wear prosthetics have is not, like, there's a lot of innovation with the feet. Like I said, there's robotic feet that they're starting to do. There's all types of feet. But getting the legs to fit right is actually the hardest part of having prosthetics. That's where you might see people who are missing their legs sitting in a wheelchair instead of walking on prosthetics. And oftentimes it's not because the foot doesn't work well, it's because the leg doesn't fit well. And so one of the biggest things that innovators are working on right now is just different ways, whether it's 3D printing or there's other types of ways that they make the socket, which again is this part, is like the part that my real leg goes into, that has to fit perfect. And if it doesn't fit perfect, then you have a lot of pain. And so, and your body changes constantly. And so if you gain weight, it doesn't fit perfect. If you lose weight, if somebody gets pregnant, or I mean, if your body changes in any way, if you get stronger from working out, you get more muscle, your leg stops fitting right. So I would say the biggest challenge is not actually the dynamics of the feet, it's more the fit of the prosthetic. And our hopes is just eventually it's made from a material that can kind of be malleable and change with us, you know, like as we move through the day or as you expand or shrink, or so that's the most challenging part. But I will also say you also really get used to it, you know, and to where this is my life and I would not change it ever, because it's been really cool. It's been really cool to work with prosthetics. It's been really cool to work with robotics and just to figure out what the possibilities are. And there's so many possibilities. There's so much room for improvement, and there's always going to be people who need prosthetics. So, yeah, it's a cool thing to be a part of.
Were you inspired by yourself, or were you inspired by someone else?
So, I think I was inspired by two things at first. At first, like when I first lost my legs and I wanted to snowboard again. So I was inspired, first of all, by the possibilities. Just thinking, maybe I can do this again if I get creative and I work hard and I find a way. So I was kind of inspired by the fact that people hadn't done it yet, because I really believed I could. I just had to figure out a way to do it. And so I was inspired by the possibilities, but I also was inspired by other people who were doing things like, even I remember when I was sitting in the hospital and I lost my legs, I didn't know what I'd be able to do. I didn't know I'd be able to snowboard again or run again. And somebody brought an article in that showed a girl that was my age. I was 19 when it happened. And she was running on those running blades that I showed you guys. And it was really amazing, because just to see this picture of this girl running, I thought to myself, well, if she can run, then I can snowboard. And she had 2 prosthetic legs too. And so I've always been really inspired by other people, even if they don't have prosthetic legs. You know, if they have challenges and they've gotten creative and they've found a way to live their best life, that's always inspired me to do the same. So, and you guys have the opportunity to inspire a lot of people with the work that you're doing, because this world needs creativity. We need solutions. And so I love that that's what you guys are doing.
Yeah. So my question is, how many different types of feet?
Oh, it cut out.
I think you said like how many types of feet do you have, or she may say, I don't know.
How many types of feet do I have?
I'm going to add real quick, Amy, because I know her question and she cut out. It is how many different types of feet do you have, but also if you could, and you did talk about this a little, if you could tell us about some of the things you like the most about why you use different feet for different things.
Okay. So let me think about that. I have to count all my feet. So I have these feet, which I dance in and I swim in. And these, when you swim, you put a flipper on them. And they're really, really cool in the ocean with. It feels you're a mermaid because they work really, really well. They don't move, the ankles don't move, but it's more of like an extension of my own leg. So, so I really love these for swimming, but then I love them for dancing because I can dance on the very tips of my toes like a ballerina and balance on the tips of my toes. And then my running blade again, this is so light. This is lighter than a real foot. And it makes it really, really easy. When you run, it makes it really easy to propel forward because it's so light. It's made of carbon fiber, which is very, very light. And then I've got my walking feet. So let's see, I've got swimming feet. I've got those feet. I've got my walking feet, which I can adjust the heel height and wear high heels with, which is really cool. Swimming feet, running feet, walking feet. I have other dancing feet that when I was on Dancing with the Stars, the majority of time I wore those feet, but I don't know where those feet are at. They're somewhere around my house, but those feet are made of foam and those have wood inside of them. And I was able to balance on the balls of my feet. Like when you guys balance on the balls, you go up and balance on the balls of your feet. I was able to do that in my dancing feet. Then I have snowboard feet, which are cool. And I wish I had those here with you today too, but or with me today, but they have a really cool shock in them and they move in a certain way. So I have snowboard feet. And I will tell you, I've got boxes and boxes of all types of feet. I have all types of walking feet, all types of running feet, all types of dancing feet. And I end up just settling on the feet that are most comfortable for me because they all work differently. In fact, my walking feet, most feet are made of carbon fiber. These are made of fiberglass, and they just started doing this. And so the fiberglass has more flexibility and is really strong. And so I like the flexibility I get when I walk with fiberglass. And when I come to you guys, let's have everybody wave. Okay. Okay. All right, wave everybody. Yay. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. This was really, really cool. And I can't wait to see what you come up with. Is there a deadline or when do you think?
Well, they postponed I don't know if our team knows this yet because Coach Egbert and I just found out about it yesterday. But everything's been a little harder with it virtual. Normally our competitions are in December and they postponed it.